What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all the records that I acquired within the month of May this year in 2025. Not going to lie, I thought this month was going to be a little bit of a sleeper from Vinyl Finds, but this turned out to be a rather solid month. We have some audiophile reissues from Jethro Tull, a Third Man Vault release, which consists of the White Stripes, a new reissue from Frehley, some 50% off vinyl, which is always good fun, and much, much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Okay, so we're going to be kicking this haul off basically where the last one kind of left off at. So, as you all know, one of my favorite modern bands, Ghost, released a new album called Skala, went to #1 in the US, which is fantastic for them. Ghost is one of those bands where I will kind of go out of my way to collect different variants of on vinyl, whether it's down to colored vinyl, different extras, artwork differences, deluxe versions, you name it, I'll find a reason to snag it. Now, their last studio album, Impera, I went crazy with the variants just because different exclusives, whether it was the Walmart version or the web store or indie, they all came with different extras. So I stocked up majorly on that album. And then Phantomime, I got a couple of different versions. And then for Right Here, Right Now, the soundtrack to their concert film, I only have my pre-order from the Loma Vista web store, and that was it. But I gave Skala a listen. It's a grower with every time that I listen to it, but overall, I absolutely love it. And I figured I was prone to pick up a second or potential third copy, whatever, outside of my pre-order, which was the splatter version. So what variant of Skala did I pick up? So obviously, first off, here is the artwork, which is absolutely awesome. Nice sort of mylar-ish kind of finish to the cover. So I got the Target version. What comes with the Target press? You get this double-sided slip mat of the crucifix, which is cool. You know, different kind of color shades on both sides. And what's interesting is that all the copies of Skala come with this, what's called Papa 5 overlay. So basically, when you get it in when it's sealed, it kind of comes attached to the back like this, and it looks like he's like sitting on this throne that consists of the back cover. Now, if you look closely, sorry for the glare, I'll try to not get it there. This one is slightly different. The half mask that he's wearing is different to the one that appears on most other pressings, and his legs are a bit more spread out, or the bottom of his sort of outfit is kind of propped up a little bit. Now, based on what I've seen on Discogs, the Target press is the only other version that has this different overlay. So between the addition of the slip mat and that different overlay, along with, show you guys the Prince inner sleeve real quick, the fact that it's pressed on purple vinyl, which is sort of Papa 5 sort of go-to sort of color, I thought this was worthy of getting another copy. So that's copy number 2 of Skala, and we'll see if I maybe snag some more. We'll see. Moving onward, we have some audiophile goodness from Analog Productions. They actually just recently announced and released this title, and I actually reached out to Chad Kasem to see if he would send me a copy to review for trackingangle.com. So by the time that you see this, the review should be up, along with the Ghost album. And it is Jethro Tull's Benefits. This album is their third studio release from 1970. A fantastic record. You have To Cry You a Song, With You There to Help Me, Nothing to Say. This is just classic early Tull. 100% all analog, cut from the original master tape. What's cool is that what I have in my collection of this album is the Steven Wilson remix, which does sound great. It's the UK version, though, because this right here mimics the US pressing and includes the song Teacher, which was released as a single in the UK, and back then singles didn't appear on albums. You know that kind of rule. So it's cool to have a copy of this album with that track on it. Nice gatefold right here, featuring a cool live shot. 2 LP, 45 RPM, and comes on that sort of old school green Chrysalis label. Analog Productions gives a lot of love to the Tull because they did a 2LP version of Stand Up a little while ago, and they also did the Aqualung UHQR that I have in my collection as well. So thank you, Chad, for this. I cannot wait to listen to this on the turntable. And then moving on, we have something from the Third Man Records vault. And this vault in particular is one that I am very, very stoked for. I actually played it today just before filming this clip, and I'm not going to lie, I absolutely dug this. These are the vaults that I like. Now, that's not to say that I don't like it when Third Man puts out releases for Bob Dylan or Miles Davis. Just give me White Stripe stuff. You know what I'm saying? So they put out Get Behind Me Satan XX. So this is the sort of 20th anniversary companion set to the Get Behind Me Satan album, which celebrates its 20th anniversary this year in 2025. And this comes in like a book style jacket. They've done similar things for each of the other White Stripes albums that have come before. Debut, Distill, White Blood Cells, Elephant. And essentially, we have 2 LPs and a 7-inch. I'll open it up real quick and show you what comes with it. Just to showcase it off real quick. Let me get the LPs out. So, first LP is on red vinyl. We have some of Jack White's songwriting demos, as well as some alternate studio takes. And then on white vinyl, we basically have Get Behind Me Satan live from various shows from the tour. And then as an added bonus, there is a 7-inch featuring some tracking rehearsals for a couple of tracks from the sessions on black vinyl, which is cool. And then as an extra, we also have this nice little booklet here. And this has a lot of photo outtakes from the cover sessions. There's also a gigography, some Polaroids. What else? There's a couple of live shots there as well. And it also comes with a Blu-ray of footage taken from the tour and such. So I always love these sort of companion anniversary releases that they do for the vault. And this one is an absolutely fantastic one. And if you see it out there for yourself in the secondhand market, definitely check it out. Okay, so recently I found myself doing some shopping over at Oric Vacuums and Records, otherwise known as the Vacuum Shop, as I like to call it. If you saw my mini-series with the youngest members of the VC when they came to my home state of New Jersey, we did some damage at that shop, and needless to say, it was one of our favorite stores on the trip, and it's also one of my favorite shops in general because, for me, it has all of the hallmarks of a great record store. There's used and new pressings, there's bootlegs, there's Japanese pressings, audiophile pressings. It has everything that I'm pretty much looking for myself. And when I was there, Chris, the owner, was playing this particular record, and I was really digging it. And I kind of had some flashbacks because I remember one of my former coworkers really liked these guys, and I heard this album from time to time. So I was kind of reminded of how solid it is. And then I was like, name me a price. And I was like, sold. And that is the Standell's Dirty Water. So this band is like one of the top premier garage rock bands of the 1960s. Some people would go as far as to call them sort of proto-punk, or I guess what would come before proto-punk. I'm not quite sure. But obviously Dirty Water was their big hit. That appears on here. They do covers of 19th Nervous Breakdown, Hey Joe. Now this is an interesting pressing. I know that Sundays did a reissue of it, but this is some dodgy UK press that has the main 10-track album basically on one side of the album, and then you have the second side, which has some other tracks that appeared on other albums that they did. There's their covers of Paint It Black, Sunshine Superman, Eleanor Rigby, the song Try It, which had some controversy at the time when it was released. But nonetheless, I'm really stoked to have this in my collection. It was one of those cases where I heard it for the first time in ages, and I was like, you know what? This is definitely worth having in the collection. So I was glad to pick up the Standells. And now we have a new Ace Frehley vinyl pressing. Friday Music had just reissued this particular release from Frehley's Comet, technically. And that is Live Plus One, the expanded version. So this EP came out back in 1988, primarily recorded at the Oregon Ballroom in Chicago. But what makes this the expanded version is the fact that there's a couple of cuts from the Hammersmith Odeon show, which was released as the Frehley's Comet live home video, and those recordings have appeared elsewhere on various compilations, record store day releases. So it's kind of beefed up to make it more of like an LP than just an EP. And then as an added bonus, there's also the studio track Words Are Not Enough, which I believe was an early Frehley's Comet demo. But nonetheless, in typical Friday music fashion, they replicate the artwork and add a gatefold in there. And this is basically, I think, the cover of that live VHS that I was referencing. So you have Ace with the smoking guitar there. And there's a couple of colored pressings out there. And the one that I opted to get is this sort of orange solar flare-ish sort of colored vinyl. Overall, it's a basic orange hue with a little bit of red in there. It looks really great. Also kind of matches his cherry sunburst Les Paul, so that's kind of why I opted for that. And as always, when it comes to anything Kiss related, I gotta be on top of it. And sure enough, this was a no-brainer. Frehley's Comet Live Plus One. Okay, so I was in the Mount Ephraim area recently, and since I was there, I had to stop over at the store Abbey Road, spelled A-B-B-I-E, just like my Abbey. And if you live in South Jersey, or let's say in the Philly area, and you haven't checked out Abbey Road, you really owe it to yourself to check it out because all of their vinyl is 50% off. That's right, 50%. Now, it's not set up like new vinyl, used vinyl, sections, etc. It's all commingled in various boxes, bins, and crates, and if you have a couple of hours to kill to really do some deep digging, you might find some gold. And what's funny is the last time I was there was sometime around April, and Abby was actually with me, and I ended up putting back some stuff that I didn't get on that trip. And I kind of had it in my mind that next time that I would go there, I would double check to see if they were still there and snag them. Needless to say, I managed to do both that and also stumble across some things that I hadn't seen there from last time and get for myself. And just to put it in perspective how sweet of a deal this is, this stack right here was $50. So that's what? 5 albums, so that's $10 a pop if you really want to average it out that way. Granted, some were more than others, but you get the general gist. So I'm going to start off with the stuff that I had put back from last time that I was there, that I was able to get. And first up is The Nice. Everything as nice as Mother makes it. Not gonna lie, when I saw this, I kind of picked it up on impulse just because I saw that Keith Emerson was on the cover. I'm aware of his history with The Nice. Obviously, I'm an Emerson, Lake and Palmer fan. But it wasn't until after I bought it and I realized it. This was basically a reissue of the self-titled Nice album that I already had in my collection. It does feature tracks on here like Hang On to a Dream and Rondo that he would kind of carry on over to ELP. They also cover Bob Dylan's She Belongs to Me. Overall, it's a fun listen. I think I read somewhere the version of Rondo on this album is longer than the self-titled version. But nonetheless, you know, it has enough going for it to stand out as a variant to own. And it does come pressed on black vinyl with that pink immediate label. This is like a sort of dodgy gray area, official yet unofficial type pressing. Let's just say I think a certain distributor was bootlegging themselves. That's all I'll say. But it is cool to have, though. Moving on, we have the debut album of one of the most notable rock bands from the 60s. This is an expanded version of their debut, and honestly, I'm shocked that I hadn't picked this up prior in my years of collecting. I would have thought I would have tackled this already, but goes to show, you know, I've been collecting for over 10 years and there's still classic albums that I still need to get. And of course, I am talking about The Who's My Generation. So this is a 2 LP set. You have the original album remixed in true stereo. And so you get things like My Generation, The Kids Are All Right, Legal Matter, The Ox. And then the second LP has a lot of alternate takes and non-album singles. So overall, it's a pretty solid expanded version of the album. I'll show you guys the artwork and the gatefold. And of course, that is the photo that was used for the American version of this album when it got released in the States. And of course, each LP has its own printed inner sleeve with scans of tape boxes and recording dates. And it comes with these sort of Brunswick center labels here, which is pretty awesome. So I was glad to kind of beef up the early Who collection and fill in a little bit of a gap filler. See, that's the thing. I love that I can say, like I was saying, I've been collecting for over 10 years and there's still gap fillers out there for me to seek out. So very happy to snag this. And then here is an album which came out from 1968, I want to say, 68, 69. The second album by one of the godfathers of sort of hard rock, metal, however you want to see it. And that is Deep Purple's The Book of Taliesin. So on this album, you get things like Listen, Learn, Read On, Ring That Neck, which is a great kind of jammy instrumental, The Shield, Anthem. So like they're kind of starting to write a bit more stuff, but in classic early Deep Purple Mark I territory, there's a lot of covers on here. So obviously the big highlight on here is Neil Diamond's Kentucky Woman. That was like the hit off of this. They do a version of the Beatles' We Can Work It Out, River Deep Mountain High by Tina Turner. So it's a good half and half, like half original, half covers type deal. Now I have this in my collection already, but it is a UK mono edition. So obviously there's some artwork differences. I think there's a gatefold in there, I think. And obviously it's mono, whereas this is in stereo. And I think this comes from the same batch of official, quasi-official pressings, such as the Nice record. And it comes on that sort of silver grayish tetragrammaton label right there. So I used to listen to this album a lot when I was digging deeper and deeper into Deep Purple, and it's been a while. So I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting this record. So those three right there were the ones that I anticipated on getting last time but didn't. So got those out of the way. Now let's move on to the freshest of fresh, what I was surprised to see there. And oddly enough, I think this is their second album, or it's one of the early ones. I say that, yet like I'm a little bit of a novice when it comes to their catalog, but yet I love their work very much, and I'm still beefing up my collection of this particular band because as of right now, I only have one record of theirs, and it was their first one. And I've been meaning to get these reissues as they've been coming out recently, and to say that I got this record for 15 bucks, brand new sealed reissue, I'm more than happy. And that is Steely Dan's Countdown to Ecstasy. You know what's funny? You know, sometimes I'll just put Steely Dan on shuffle and I always like everything that I hear, and then I realize I'm like, oh shit, I really got to hunt these albums down. They're all solid. You know, whether if you want to dub them in the controversial yacht rock genre that people tend to nitpick and comment on, brilliant musicianship. They got top of the line players playing on these records, and they always just sound great. So I was really glad to pick this up, and I think now that I snagged this, this is more of an incentive for me to pick up the other Steely Dan records. And of course, they did away with the ABC label, so they just put it on a plain black Geffen label, which I'm sure is the label that now owns the Steely Dan catalog. So happy to get this. And then here's an album that I just absolutely needed, and that is John Lennon, Yoko Ono, Double Fantasy. This was John's last album when he was alive. Just like Starting Over, Watching the Wheels, Beautiful Boy. Honestly, this is just an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful record. And just one of those things that I absolutely needed. Reissue comes with the printed inner sleeve. Now that I mention it too, I mean, if I had to have my choice, it would always be Double Fantasy. But I remember I saw a copy of John Lennon's Rock and Roll there. And I think I'll have to double check my collection. But if I snag that, then for the most part, my Lennon solo collection is complete. So maybe I'll go back to Abbey Road next month. We shall see. So that's what I got there. And speaking of Abbey, we took a trip over to Wall to Wall Sound and Video. That's kind of our go-to place because they have records for me. They have movies and TV shows for her. So we kind of go off, check out our own stuff. And needless to say, some of these picks are a little Abbey inspired. So I'm going to start off with her favorite artist of all time, I would say, and that's Hozier, Unreal, Unearth, Unending. So this is basically the extension of Hozier's latest full-length album. The cool thing about it is that it has a lot of the non-album singles that came out after the record was released. Obviously, the big one is Too Sweet. He does a track with Alison Russell called Wildflower and Barley, which she was on tour with him from when her and I saw Hosier in concert last year. And just a couple of EP tracks as well. So it kind of just gathers up everything else. But here is what I like about this. And this is something that I think labels should do more of. Is the fact that they sold this as an expansion. And they even put on the hype sticker, there's space to put your copy of Unreal Unearth in there, which I have in my collection. So basically, this is a triple gatefold sleeve, but it only has one record with the intention of, hey, put your records in here and you'll have a complete set. I love that it's done that way instead of having to rebuy the album just to have those bonus tracks, which I feel like that's the easy route for labels to do because they'll get you to buy it again. But this was a much better approach. But it comes with a nice printed inner sleeve, and there's also a cool insert which has some doodles and song lyrics. I'm curious if this comes with all the copies or they're inserted at random because it represents 2 different songs. So I'm not sure if it's the same across the board or it's all different. I'll do some research there. But it comes pressed on this sort of orange translucent with black smoke colored vinyl, which looks really cool. So I was really glad to pick up these extra tracks because honestly a lot of them are really good. Too Sweet is great. There's a track called Nobody Soldier, which is awesome. Hymn to Virgil, just great sort of singer songwriter indie, not really indie, but folk pop, let's just say that. This guy's really, really good, and we actually have tickets to see him later this year, so it'll be a blast, and I'm glad that I have this in my collection. And then moving on, here is actually a record by an artist that I don't have any records of, but I've always liked his style. Very much in the sort of acoustic, low-key, I don't want to say lo-fi, but it's a great kind of easygoing rainy day kind of artist, and that is Bon Iver. And this album is called For Emma, Forever Ago. I know some of the songs on here, like For Emma, I know. Skinny Love was another one. To be honest with you, I think I heard a lot of these songs on Abby's liked playlist on Spotify, so I've gotten quite familiarized with some of this stuff. But I was even explaining it, she was saying, she's like, I feel like the stuff you bought is very much catered to just me. And I'm like, listen, I'm the one that listens to your playlist, so I do like what I hear, but also I said I want there to be a part of my record collection that you can enjoy. You know, it's not like she's going to be reaching for an audience recording from the Kisses Creatures of the Night tour. So it's why you got to cater to who you have at your helm, you know, the way that I put it. But nonetheless, I am glad that I picked this up, and it's an artist for me to kind of dive a little bit deeper into. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this haul up with a record that I snagged at On The Record, which is a great little shop based in the Woodbury, Deptford area of my home turf here in South Jersey. And Abby and I, we were out in the area. I had a little bit of record spending money aside. And you know how it goes when you go to a record store. You end up with a stack of 3 to 5 records, and you only intend on leaving with one. And let this be a pro tip. If you're ever out record shopping with your special someone and you want to leave with one record and you have a stack, you let them pick what you leave with. So I laid out my options. I said, Ab, pick what I'm going to buy. And she said, well, I'm partial to this band. And right then and there, I said, that's it. That's what I'm getting, because quite frankly, it saves you from the second guessing and the contemplating of whatever else you would have ended up leaving with. Just trust them. They always know. But anyways, what record did she end up picking? It was Bon Jovi's 7800 Fahrenheit. I don't showcase too much Bon Jovi here on this channel. And it's not that I have anything against Bon Jovi. You know, I love like the period from like the debut up until the New Jersey album. Slippery When Wet is a fantastic 80s rock album. But early Bon Jovi is where it's at for me. And it's kind of like cosmic timing in terms of leaving with this record, because literally just a couple days ago, I was listening to the track Tokyo Road, which is my favorite song on this record. And I remember it kind of harks back to when I was a kid. My dad had a VHS tape that was actually imported from Japan of a live show that Bon Jovi did in Tokyo around this time in like 1985. And I remember watching it over and over again. Like, it's a part of my childhood, basically. It's part of my rock and roll upbringing. And it was nice to kind of like have it sync up to where I listened to the song recently, and here I am showcasing this record and Abbey made a great choice. And In and Out of Love is on this record, Only Lonely, Silent Night. I have not approached this album in such a long time, so this is going to be a fun sort of deep dive. And also, there is a little bit of a Kiss connection with the packaging of this album. It does come with a printed inner sleeve with lyrics, as well as a photo collage. At the time, Bon Jovi opened for Kiss on the Animalize tour. And if you look, there's a photo of John Bon Jovi with Gene Simmons. And then if you flip it over, there is David and Alec with Paul Stanley. So there's your history lesson right there. And as always, it's from the 80s on Mercury. Has that classic 80s Mercury label there that also adorned many Kiss records in the 1980s of the non-makeup period. But a really solid way to wrap up this month's worth of vinyl finds with Bon Jovi's 7800 Fahrenheit. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of May this year in 2025. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.